As you can see from the projection, their energy signatures spiked just before the collapse of the localized network.
Welcome to my channel Alien Signal. The first rule of combat adaptation class at the Orion Military Academy was simple: humans don't quit. The second rule was less official, but everyone knew it anyway: don't embarrass yourself in front of the aliens. Cadet Elias Varn learned both rules the hard way. The training chamber shimmered with artificial gravity fluctuations, designed to simulate unstable battle environments. Panels shifted, the floor tilted unpredictably, and the air hummed with energy fields that distorted perception. It wasn't just a classroom, it was a proving ground. Humans were still new to the Galactic Coalition. Compared to the towering Veskari, the telepathic Lyrans, and the biomechanical Keth, humans were seen as average. Fragile, emotional, unpredictable, but not in a way that inspired confidence. Elias stood among them, fists clenched, trying not to look intimidated. He had trained his whole life for this moment, to prove that humanity belonged here. That they weren't just the Coalition's newest experiment. Across the room stood Cadet Serial. She didn't look dangerous. That was the problem. Serial was Lyran, tall, pale, with eyes that glowed faintly violet. Her movements were slow, deliberate, almost lazy. But everyone knew what she could do. Lyrans didn't fight with strength. They fought with minds. Today's exercise, the instructor announced, his voice booming through the chamber, as close quarters engagement under cognitive interference. No lethal force. No permanent damage. A pause. Pairings have been assigned. Elias glanced at the projection above. Varn, Elias, Serial, Lyran Division. A ripple of murmurs spread across the room. Someone chuckled. Humans done for. Elias swallowed. He had expected a challenge, but not this. Serial stepped forward, her expression unreadable. She tilted her head slightly, studying him as if he were a puzzle she wasn't sure was worth solving. You may begin when ready, the instructor said. The chamber shifted. Gravity pulled sideways. Elias moved first. He launched forward, using the shift to propel himself, aiming to close the distance before she could do whatever it was Lyrans did. His training screamed at him, don't give a telepath time. Serial didn't move, not physically. The moment he stepped within range, the world twisted. Elias stumbled. The chamber dissolved into fragments of memory. His childhood home, the smell of rain, his mother's voice calling his name. His vision blurred, replaced by flashes of things that weren't there. He gritted his teeth. Not real. He pushed forward anyway. That was the human advantage. Not strength. Not speed. Stubbornness. His hand reached out, and grabbed her hair. A sharp gasp rippled through the room. It wasn't part of the technique. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't even particularly effective. But it was real, physical, grounding. Serial's eyes widened, not in pain, but in surprise. For the first time, her focus broke. The illusions shattered. The chamber snapped back into reality. Elias saw his chance. But then, something else happened. The moment his fingers tangled in her hair, something surged through him. Not energy, not pain, presence. It was like falling into an ocean made of thoughts. Memories flooded him, ancient, layered, alien. He saw stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, countless minds interwoven into something vast and incomprehensible. Serial's consciousness wasn't a single mind. It was a network, and he had just touched it. Elias gasped, staggering as the weight of it crashed into him. His grip loosened, but it was too late. The connection had already formed. Serial froze. Not physically, mentally. For the first time in her life, someone was inside, not skimming the surface, not brushing against her defenses. Inside, and they weren't supposed to be. Her voice echoed, not through sound, but directly in his mind. Get out. Elias didn't know how. He wasn't trained for this. He didn't even understand what was happening. But something deep within him, something uniquely human, reacted. He didn't retreat. He held on. And then, he pulled. The chamber went silent. Every cadet felt it. Even the instructor. A ripple, like a shockwave through reality itself. Serial screamed. Not out loud, but every mind in the room heard it. Elias collapsed to his knees, clutching his head as the connection snapped. The flood of alien consciousness vanished, leaving behind a hollow echo. The chamber stabilized. Gravity returned to normal. For a moment, no one moved. Then Serial staggered back. Her glowing eyes flickered, dimmed. Something was missing. The instructor rushed forward. End exercise. Medical team, now. Cadets scrambled, whispers turning into frantic chatter. What did he do? That's not possible. He's human. Elias barely heard them. His heart pounded in his chest. His hands trembled as he stared at them. Something felt different, quieter. Inside his mind, Serial was staring at him. Not with anger, not even with fear, with confusion. You, she whispered, her voice unsteady. You took something. Elias shook his head. I didn't mean to. I don't even know. But he did. Some part of him understood. He hadn't just broken her concentration. He had pulled something from her mind. Not memories, not thoughts. Something deeper. A fragment of her self. The aftermath was worse than the fight. Elias was isolated immediately, confined to a secure observation chamber, monitored by coalition scientists, military officials, and more than one nervous telepath. Humans had been unpredictable before. Now they were dangerous. Across the station, panic spread quietly. If a human could breach a Lyran mind, something that had never been done, what else were they capable of? The official reports were cautious. Anomalous interaction, unexpected cognitive resonance. But the truth was simpler. No one knew what had happened. Least of all Elias. Days passed. Then Serial came to see him. She looked smaller. Not physically, but the presence he had felt before, the vast, layered consciousness, was diminished. Contained. She sat across from him, separated by a transparent barrier. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. What you did, she said quietly, should be impossible. Elias exhaled. Yeah, I've been hearing that a lot. She studied him. Do you remember what you felt? He hesitated. Everything. Her expression tightened. That was not everything, she said. That was a fraction, a fragment of the collective. Elias frowned. Collective. The Lyran mind is not singular, she explained. We are individuals, yes, but we are also connected. A shared network of consciousness. Elias swallowed. And I, what? Broke it. She shook her head slowly. No. A pause. You took from it. The words hung in the air. Elias felt that strange quietness in his mind again. What did I take? He asked. Serial's gaze didn't waver. A piece of me. They began testing soon after. Carefully, cautiously. The coalition couldn't ignore what had happened, but they were equally afraid of repeating it. Elias was placed in controlled environments, monitored constantly. Lyran volunteers, few, and very nervous, were brought into attempt limited interactions. At first, nothing happened. No connection, no strange surge, just normal, awkward silence. Then, during the third test, it happened again. A brief contact, a flicker, and Elias felt it. That presence, that vast ocean of thought. But this time, he didn't panic. He focused, and when the connection began to slip, he reached out, not physically, mentally, and he held it. The observing scientists erupted into chaos. He's stabilizing the link. That's not possible. Humans don't have psionic structures. Then what are we looking at? Serial, watching from behind the glass, felt it too. But this time, it didn't hurt. It was controlled. Elias broke the connection gently, pulling back before it overwhelmed him. He looked up, breathing heavily. I can feel it, he said. I can feel all of you. The breakthrough changed everything. Humans weren't just resilient. They were adaptive. Where other species had fixed abilities, humans evolved in real time. Improvised. Overcame. Elias's mind had done something no one had predicted. It had learned. The Lyrans began to reconsider their assumptions. Carefully, they allowed deeper testing. Under supervision, Elias connected with Serial again. This time, she guided him. Do not pull, she instructed. Just observe. He nodded, closed his eyes, and reached out. The connection formed smoothly. No chaos. No overwhelming flood. Just awareness. He saw her thoughts, her memories, not as intrusive visions, but as something offered, shared. It was beautiful, alien, complex beyond comprehension, but understandable. Human adaptability at work. Serial watched him carefully. You are not like us, she said. Elias smiled faintly. Yeah, I figured that out. No, she continued. You are not limited like us. He opened his eyes. What do you mean? She hesitated, then spoke the truth that terrified her people. You can take. The coalition faced a dilemma. A human who could interact with the Lyran collective, who could potentially extract pieces of it, was either the greatest threat they had ever encountered, or the greatest ally. Elias was given a choice. Return to normal training, or become something new. A bridge, a weapon, a symbol. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he went back to the training chamber. The same room where it had all begun. Serial met him there. You are deciding, she said. He nodded. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said quietly. I know, she replied. A pause. Do you want it back? He asked. Her eyes flickered. For the first time, there was uncertainty. I don't know, she admitted. Elias stepped closer. Then let's find out. He reached out. Not physically this time. Mentally. The connection formed instantly. Smooth. Controlled. He felt that fragment within himself. The piece he had taken. It wasn't foreign anymore. It had adapted. Merged. Human. He focused. And gently, carefully, he pushed it back. Serial gasped. The chamber lights flickered as the energy spiked. The connection surged, then stabilized. She staggered slightly, catching herself as her eyes glowed brighter than before. Whole, complete, different. She looked at him. You gave it back. Elias nodded. Did it work? She was silent for a long moment. Then, yes. A faint smile touched her lips. But it changed me. Elias chuckled softly. Yeah, I get that. The decision was made soon after. Elias didn't return to normal training. He became something else. The first human cognitive adaptation specialist. A bridge between minds. A living example of what humanity truly was. Not the strongest. Not the fastest. But the species that refused limits. That learned. Adapted. Evolved. In combat class, one move had changed everything. He had pulled her hair. And in doing so, he had pulled something far greater. Not just her pride, but the future of two species, and maybe, the entire galaxy. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more cinematic science fiction stories.